Minglava Muro, Mamina Jaloha, maybe I mean him another. Jamal Lily, look the show the lama minute. Look at the cave, oh, look home like go murinate at Triwana. Sagari Biojin, I bet there was a happy boy saying, oh, my, who are fabulous, oh, to Nabisia, my lady. I could, you might be at Nabisia, the show you, oh, I wanna, love your arm. Couldn't be in it. Through American Laviro, a little yard as a job. Information be that through a cool Saturday kind and a Saturday night. I look at through the show, look at through the Miara, but I show myself out, look at the Gigajaro. Go a bono to meow, look on Matida, dear, Timbia be out of one by the Ludia. I don't catch a good at the machine. I went near my feminine neighbor, my light am, so that they feel like, but I'll let the catcher or to match it. Amazing. Yamananga to Nangandari, I don't sit there. Amazing. How does Sabrina even yet another? But then, like 3 hours, Alo, go dance or the Matan soda Minglava shade. Nanso Minglava can't marking Ula, Kinula, Kinsang Laram. Tana we Minglava, Kizzy Minglava, no? Tana Jamala, so Luagino, Jamare, I go no, I go rejuvenate pin, a Kalili look at my whole lot, the pin it was so down later. I'm a tipia, a poison organ, really. The car allergy yellow. I will low as a cocoa one up here. No, neither. Number of men do the so. Mapu Yadria, Yain to Yiming Lavana, and the Adria. Allo, Name Tapiro, and me correctly where Blocom Jovivano, not really. Or the Chua about a lime large and all about the ruby mare. What Jamaga, Aguga, Amuri, oh, Chido, that Jamal lime or Debbie, like that, the Gay Jolly, or Jaman in a lime mama. A may piece of happy and the low pudra that they seem to be like they got no. I go, Jamai ye client account level, disabled pillow, a good not a ye client account that could have pointed at a phone number and point her upon. I like Jara, Baba Mavia, who are or Blocomle, a Muri Drago, or Sakambia would go near and 6 miles she was. Jesus to my than I knew that I don't think Nura Nura of your doubt to what Islam we were bono or blue home. The up by enough there damage for the theatre had up by my Chiwali, my Tony there 24/7 bono. Anyway, Dinia, Jama Lamotella, Jang Jangara, or Dinia, Tomorrow Amia, Yamata Nagalo, Chit. Country rules the Biomla, tomorrow about democracy icon of Biomla, Tamea. Mama Suara Dora Mia, what a Duara body, democracy icon about to a democracy and the net lucinally to the West of the Charlie Pioyanida. Dinica, tomorrow Masu Drago, Muni, a Trevon, Mamasu, Conasacon and Nemia, Munego, Tomorrow, or Sudan Welle, Sudan way in a Dinijama, Pomon to batch, drum, a poem to my drum, Mamasu Drago tomorrow, one. Cobatilla, you may not be saying, come go to a low maple, long way, one, to nine, I won't have my piano. I'm sorry, Los Angeles get you. Jama, well, Los Jama, and name a gown to John Lounge Disability Pia, Harakaja, Missouri, Piana in my young lady, California, and now Nicana, Piami, Lolo Mabona. Then I launch out of the cow neighbor, or look on say, is a chamber barber and launch out of the yard, job shoe, a my young lad, a mojimus. A 5 year baby, Naza Sini Jamala Mesa Doa, Naza Sini Pido, who are Mamma Suyam Winnie, John Sako, yes, Mamma Conasacon and Nimia Bono, Jamaro. Lime wa Muri Bawi, Jamaro Sudamida women up, Piatia Tanga, Mi Pasia, the Maro Nano Jesus, Mamma Su, Amesu, Papa Su, Yamali Su, my Sus of Bionis, Coniade, the Sansu Jesus, Jamaro Mananga, the Kudido, the Udido Alcoya, Democracy Pane, Yautland and Modrego, Usanambia Bigger, Amasuya. Second and you are winning Drago, Mida, the sheet have you, my Piatia Tanga Yanaba, Toma, Ne to Piatia Tanga, Mi Pasia, the Maro Jesus Jam, Mama Sudi, Nikon Jama, say Chanda, Lusana, Madame, Madame Javin, P was one, and Mima Pijigo, Ninjan, Naigan, a ship. Democracy is a negotiation and a fair belongs to the Maram Yaman and no 2009. Swanson out to the ground to me alone, Nagana, social to move on, to down be body, Boda by the baby, Muslim, Korean, maybe Hindu, pay by the baby, to the Masapia, go Jesus or Jamba. Jamaro goes on at the Javazi, is on at the Javazi, chance on at the Javazi, Loga sound at the Javazi, the Motia sound at the Javazi, Akasa Namo, along will ever Jamaro to me along the Midabo, much Maro to me to come to live, Machimulo del Cono, Miabi Bade, to get the good to come Muja, Conasacona Nipi, Amayi, Don Sansuji, now the Nisolosi, Conasacona Nipi Babi, Aramamasu. Nikon Jama, say Chanda Birama, Luyoma, Legani, Benja, Yimtin, Lokinsi, and Babia, a man zone of Miabazi, Mimanang and Jiwama, Yoma Kauti Beer, Ludigo, that Misho, a Shinalati, let the city, let it Pia, Misho, Tapia Bira, the Yablu Sinida, Luyoma, Akutu, Mimapi, Mioma, Benja, Yimtin, Lokinsi, and Babia Birama, Bella de Lobe, and let him hear with Pia Javi, Sapia Bazi, the Nachamaro, Mimanang and Dema. Say, Anna, you me online and me online too. Anna, you be on my time, you delay, bonus of income, be on time, you do happy, need it, me online too. Anna, you to suit a mianzo, your mammy, Maga, Harry Kabami, you were my young lady to river about alo. No, or Benja Yim, Kinsi, and Pipe of the Bazi, Macauno, Bay, Macauno, and Macauno, Akudo, Mia. Bono, Akudo, Diamiaji, Mimanema, Chiso, Yoman, Jimade, a mianzo. Yatanga, to the country along with Jabazi. Okay, I'll sit down with that. Hannah. Okay, Mama Su, let my happy birthday to you, Mama Su. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Mama Su. Happy birthday to you. May God bless you always. May you be happy, and many prosperous come in advance. I'm ready to take it down tired. Now, how do Mama know? Mama say I'm winning. Now, that of the middle, Papa, I'm winning. Now, I may suit me, man, again, G. Da Bono, Baby Bio, Jamaro, or time in a lumio drago, Bono, say now, man. This how we had Mama Suye. Jesus in the Lampia Bemurio, Jamara, Jesus de Mare, and Jamatini, YiYi Kline, so that Jamat phone and number account, they put her account, YiYi Kline, YiYi Kline, YiYi Kline, Bona, now the banky people, Jama, Bona, account, and you're not, Jama, not showing the account and the regiment, and the mother. And all Baby Muri Nego, do some beautiful to the Kamachama, Lenny Jama Bade, Adilo, Bona, the Crucia, Jamara, the Cambry, Yard to Jamlo, took us in powder, by this powder, a colon of Countabi, Tamachi Wally, and Nelly Tony there, Nafley at the Neo, the leader, about a millimeter, 1 millimeter to a day, to a Nafley, I had the Piami or Piotr Mocana, but Jaman Nafti Theatre, Pianchin Labus, or a Tipian Mupa Labuda, the Nego, but 1 millimeter, she Jesus de Mare, Cotonchi, Evas my and the Aleci Bare, Allo Chicken Mare, Tini Amisu Drago, Jamaro, sit down with a Popo Drago, you have Bira Majama Limo to be that I am Biolo or Leve. Jamayana Mamia Bejan Nagara, Mama Su a Trebono, or Bera Ban, or Mama Suha, Sia Isogia, he had a Gabiade, Bera Langabiale, and Midoji, so that the same body Jama, cream at the same to tomorrow, wine so Jara Bona. Mama Su, you reach my did the Puma, not hammer. Yo, Pia, Ladami Shizi, like the Yapirate, like the Yasin. Yo, Pia, Ladami Shizi, like the Yapirate, like the Yasin. Don't you, Jesus de Mare? See, I'm in the Not the cheese, did the longer, home like piano. Mute labor, formula, Mabiraga, the language, fall like piano. Bobian, the Chong at the way, young Miriga, Bear Oga Trellola, Bear Oga, Nia, Mabiraga, the Bine, Yaga Kalo, Beravia, okay, Pampalia Bear. Hey, Jamaro Miari, Midadia, Chida, we are Kulusimia, and they gave him a Jamaro Maro Kazara Bono. Together, a Midachi, the Shindigo, not how in a Mamazu, the town, Twitter, young one, Tumadi, alone the Amatura Gondia Sivare, no? Tunyari, Locosian, watching them shoot to Yare, Dollar, million, she will have no Vesuyalo, Yari, I don't want to be mandang and that is starting more to Ludan Harawa. My young mamma and a good and can tambo she a poor Premier you. No, me online, Anna Yudizu, huh? Yayago Manalo Zane. Don't down with a mute me go. The Atana said with me out jar of Yoni there. Out Tanzariga to get a mail jam mobile. Luyoma, Quibaluda Yoma, my Yoma, couch it out and Jarasine. Mesuba, my Yoma Kauchita, Kawama Rama, to roll out Yoma and Lumishiba, Namusolo, Hitler Loda, Matrola Mayoma Gababu, Meow, Yoma Kauchimuara, the lesson that Ninja Bari with Yojima. Time in a Lumiototia, Lotalame online, Malobabu, no, at a made the Chinialu, Masuara. Penny ama below vacation is in it. Do you meet at the time you? On me on total on Josa get the way. Josa get a yachty out to get a look at new generation here. Why be a PDF to Yanivan and using a pound mirama? Time you cargo needed a year ago, a miazo, our tomorrow suit down the Arabo, Niz in Diamond Bono. A jamolo Jamala over the like you, we Niz in it, I suit down my head. No, not didn't know. Home like piano, Muley bomb, Bomala, Mamma, the language, fall like piano. Bobiale, Matata, Chong at the young Riga, Betrelula. Beoga, Nia, Mabiraga, the Bine, Yaga Kalo, Beravia, okay, Pampalia Bear. I made dodgy days so that I be at the same, maybe at the same day, one, no, Dini Jama, less about it, and in there, Jama, Babio Bono, I made dodgy days the same day, Hardy, Papa say I is a dodgy had it or about or Blocomle, or the Shenley Bono. I did the same, or the same to the same of Sora about that made a lamb so had it, or one, do kit Shenley or Jama democracy Shenley or Jama. Now so in there, Dini. Jamali, who didn't Pomono James or Imapia or Bono, Piagan, Shibanya, low for radio, Pandu radio, lower master, didn't Bono, the life code or the Chai, my pure bit about Damelo or go Naga, go time, Jamaro, buy Loja Male, Lojamaro, Josa Villa, made a Kama, Bolly, the Shuriarole. Baloja Romle, Lolone Amle Bono, Niara, you are Niara Malurio that day. Now, Mishure, you are a Mishure, and at the Lobudoka, I mean, you young need that. Time be any how Jamaro Riga, မြဲတမ်းပဲစိတ်ဆင်းရဲခြင်းပေါ်များစွာနဲ့အဝေးကနေကြည်နေရတဲ့အခါမှာဘယ်လိုခေါ်မလဲကျမတို့စိတ်တွေမချမ်းသာဘူးစားနေတဲ့ထမင်းတောင်းမှစားခြင်းစိတ်ပျောက်သွားတယ်အဲ့လောက်ထိကိုပေါ့နော်ဖြစ်ခဲ့ရတယ်အဲ့တော့ဆရာမတို့ကတော့အန်တီတို့ကတော့အဖွားတို့ကတော့အဝေးမှာဗျာဒါတွေကတော့အဖွားတို့အနေနဲ့ကတော့တိတ်ပြီးခံစားမှုလို့မထင်ပါနဲ့ကျမတို့ကလေကျမတို့နိုင်ငံအတွက်ကျမတို့တိုင်းပြည်အတွက်ကိုအမြဲတမ်းစဉ်းစားတယ်အမြဲတမ်းလည်းမြင်အောင်လည်းငါတို့တိုင်းပြည်မှာဒီလောက်တောင်ပဲအခြေအနေကဆိုးရွားသွားပြီလားလို့လည်းပဲစဉ်းစားမိတယ်တွေးခေါ်မိတယ်ပေါ့နော်အဲ့တော့ကိုလုတ်ပေးနိုင်တာဘာတွေရှိလဲလို့ပြန်စဉ်းစားမိတဲ့အခါမှာကျမတို့မြန်မာနိုင်ငံအတွက်ကိုလုတ်ပေးချင်တာတွေအများကြီးရှိတော့လည်းပဲလုတ်ပေးဖို့အခွင့်အလမ်းတွေကိုပိတ်ဆို့ထားတဲ့မင်းအောင်လှိုင်ရဲ့ရုပ်မှာကောက်ကျစ်မှုတွေနော်ဒီနိုင်ငံရေးလှုပ်လို့ရှိရင်အမေကလှုပ်လို့ရှိရင်သားသမီးတွေဒုက္ခပေးတယ်သားသမီးတွေလှုပ်လို့ရှိရင်အမေဖေကိုဒုက္ခပေးတယ်နောက်ဆုံးမွေးခါကြကလေးတောင်မှပဲဒုက္ခပေးတယ်ဆိုတဲ့အထီကိုအောက်တန်းကြဆိုအလုပ်လုပ်တဲ့ခါကျကျမတို့မှလေဘယ်လိုခေါ်မလဲဒီပေါ့နော်ဘယ်လိုခေါ်မလဲတိုင်းပြည်နဲ့လူမျိုးအတွက်ဆိုတဲ့ဘလောက်ပဲစိတ်တွေမှာကိုထားပေါ့နော်ကိုယ်နိုင်ငံမှာကအာနာယူတွေကသူတို့ကဘယ်လိုခေါ်မလဲတိုင်းပြည်နဲ့လူမျိုးကိုဒုက္ခပေးဖို့ပဲစဉ်းစားတယ်တော့ကြလို့ရှိရင်ပညာရေးဆိုလို့ရှိရင်ပညာရေးလူမှုရေးဆိုရင်လူမှုရေးအမျိုးမျိုးပေါ့နော်ဒီလိုအမျိုးမျိုးအဖုံသောဒုက္ခတွေမှာပြည်သူတွေကစားဖို့ထမင်းဟင်းပေါ့နော်စားဖို့ကိုမိသားစုအတွက်ကိုကျွေးကျင်တာပေးကျင်တာလေးတွေတစ်ချိန်တော့ဆိုလို့ရှိရင်ကျမတို့sorry excuse me ကျမတို့နိုင်ငံအတွက်ပေါ့နော်ကျမတို့တတ်နိုင်တာလေးတွေကျမတို့ဆင်းရဲတဲ့လူတွေအတွက်အိမ်ဆောက်ပေးတယ်စာသင်ကျောင်းတွေအတွက်ကိုစာလေးတွေဆောက်ပေးတယ်စာသင်ကျောင်းတွေဆောက်ပေးတယ်ဆိုတော့လူတန်းမှုလေးနဲ့ကျမတို့ပျော်ရွှင်ရတယ်အဲ့လိုပျော်ရွှင်မှုလေးတွေကိုအခုတော့ပေါ့နော်မင်းအောင်လှိုင်ရဲ့စနစ်ကြနဲ့မလုပ်ရဲတာမရှိဘူးဆိုတော့အကြောင်းပြချက်နဲ့အာနာယူပြီးတော့ကျမတို့နိုင်ငံဖျက်ဆီးခဲ့တယ်အဲ့တော့သူအခုလောက်တော့သူဘာဖြစ်လဲဝန်ကြီးချုပ်လည်းမဖြစ်ဘူးသမရလည်းမဖြစ်ဘူးနော်သူ့ဘာသူတိုင်းပြည်ကိုဒုက္ခပေးတာပဲသူဒီတိုင်းပြည်နဲ့ပတ်သက်လို့ဘာမှကောင်းကျိုးကိုမပေးနိုင်တဲ့လူတယောက်ဖြစ်တယ်လူယုံမှတယောက်ဖြစ်တယ်ဆိုတာပဲအဖတ်တင်သွားတယ်ရာဇဝင်လှမ်းမယ်ဆိုရာဇဝင်ကြည့်မယ်ဆိုရင်တော့မှဥနေဝင်ယုံမှကောက်ကျစ်မှုတွေရှိတယ်မှန်တယ်သို့တော်လည်းပဲနည်းနည်းပေါ့နော်အဆင့်တန်းရှိသေးတယ်လို့ကျွန်တော်ကပြောလို့ရတယ်ဘယ်လိုခေါ်မလဲဒီလောက်ဆိုးဝါးကြီးမဆိုးဒါပေမဲ့မင်းအောင်လည်းလက်ထက်မှာတော့အခုကတက်မတော်ဆိုတာကတက်မတော်နဲ့ပြည်သူတက်မတော်မဟုတ်ဘဲနဲ့ပြည်သူတို့ရဲ့ဘယ်လိုခေါ်မလဲလုံခြုံမှုကိုပေးဖို့က0ပဲเนาะပြည်သူရဲ့လုံခြုံမှုပေးဖို့က0ပဲနောက်တစ်ခါကျတော့မြန်မာနိုင်ငံအတွက်ကောင်းကျိုးဘာပေးလဲကျွန်မမေးကြည့်မယ်မြန်မာနိုင်ငံအတွက်ကောင်းကျိုးဘာပေးလဲလို့ကြည့်လိုက်လို့ချင်းဘာမှမပေးတာကောင်းကျိုးနဲ့ပတ်သက်လို့မေးကြည့်လိုက်လို့ရှိရင်ကျမတို့မြန်မာနိုင်ငံမှာပညာရေးဆိုရင်လည်းနောက်ဆုံးဘက်က0 minus square တယ်เนาะတခါကျမရေးဆိုလို့ရှိရင်လည်းပဲ minus square တယ်အခုကြည့်ကျမသူနာပြုဆရာမအမေရိကန်ဗမာပြည်ကနေပြီးသူနာပြုဆရာမတွေပေါ့နော်ဒီပလိုမာနဲ့အောင်တောင်မှအမေရိကန်မှာနိုင်စင်ဆောင်မွဲဖြည့်ပြီးသူနာပြုဆရာမတွေအလုပ်လုပ်ပြီးတော့ရတဲ့ငွေတွေကိုတိုင်းပြည်တောင်လူငွေတွေလူပေးနိုင်ပါတယ်ကုနိုင်ပါတယ်လို့ကျွန်မပြောပြီးသင်ခဲ့တယ်ဆိုမှလို့လေတကယ်ဖြစ်နေတဲ့အနေအထားမျိုးမှာဘယ်လိုဖြစ်နေလဲဆိုတော့မြန်မာနိုင်ငံမှာသူနာပြုဆရာမဆိုတော့10တန်းအောင်မှနော်ပညာတတ်တယ်10တန်းအောင်မှသင်ရတယ်ဆိုတော့အဆင့်ကိုထားတာအဲ့ဒီလိုထားပြီးတော့10တန်းအောင်ပြီးခါမှာအမှတ်စင်းနဲ့လိုက်ပြီးတော့မှတို့တွေကအခုဘာလုပ်လဲဆိုတဲ့အခါကျတော့ဘယ်လိုခေါ်မလဲဒီကလေးတွေကိုပေါ့နော်ဘယ်လိုခေါ်မလဲသူနာပြုဆရာမဆိုတော့အောင်လက်မှတ်တွေနဲ့စာသင်ပြီးတော့မှစင်တန်းရှိထားတာအခုကဆရာဝန်ပေါ့နော်တယောက်ကနေပြီးတော့မှငွေကြီးအရာပေါ့နော်စုဆောင်ထားပြီးတော့မှအဲ့ဒါဘယ်လိုခေါ်မလဲnurse ခေါ်တာပါ nurse ဆိုအခုသူနာပြုအမေရိကမှာသူတို့online ပေါ့နော် assistant nurse လို့ခေါ်တယ်အဲ့လိုလူမျိုးတွေကအခုဘယ်လိုဖြစ်နေလဲဆိုတော့ nurse တွေကို training ပေးတယ်ကိုယ့်ကို training ပေးပြီးတော့သွေးဖောက်ခိုင်းတယ်နောက်ပြီးလို့ရှိရင်သွေးဖောက်ခိုင်းတယ်ဆို phlebotomist အနေနဲ့ training လုပ်ရတယ်ကိစ္စမရှိဘူးသို့တော်လည်းအဲ့သူတို့တွေ IV ထိုးခိုင်းတယ် IV အကျော်စီထိုးခိုင်းတယ်ဆိုတော့ဒါတွေဟာပေါ့နော်မလုတ်တဲ့မလုတ်ထိုက်တဲ့ look down at practice daria the gag solution international uber years and international law years solution that may practice hello may practice and low message you can Yamana Sia when it America my USLM P the Kama Tomia Jaja to get out or love on Bono the get out or love Sia or blue comb the Sia pit. Mana beyond the ladder lure solution, a good solution. I must be on a lua sat on US LME P. Mabe or Almada Sia and Lolo Yars any time with pin. A good tomato or blue comb, Yamana Yamaga. Lucian I go load her Jamai Pina ye, a sin dance or a misu letter tomorrow, then oh tomorrow one that I am a pino shidoma or Glocovica was in a battle of the Yuria or Ramabe or Bono no council what one sounds yet Tolaida and no rebono or blue comland. Go ye bonnet or be do the dragon, no council, look way like that, so the pure at his feet. A good meal and let her magic. Through a good sit at here, Ludo, Corbid or Babi Yama Matata, Luca. Ochoy the January when low there, now Sitaga Ludiga, a Wimbira Mabona, go time be go 900, go Malu at the Yario, Blocom, the Wimbira Ma, look happy in the Jarabona. I could see late over Blocom, tomorrow and later Bono, Daddy had up your Mapiti move, my pit type boots or the Bioni Jabim, my pit move, my pit type of Bioni, the Jari Cabe. I was solution, Jepina, I said, I'll never come. I will buy shallow in them, the Caladia, Blue Tram, Lemedy, now Jama in about the Sunshine Musura, 0. No, I Lumui, Papia Muria, Amiai, may I like to Matashin at Bioga, but may I like to me, not lazy balling as Simbira, got the milling in the Adama, Jinji, they may be lame at the media pit out Dama, Masoma, and I pay it, Yawa, type in a Lumu Boma, so my name is a sensor. Jamara Bloma or Sinalumia, one of Jamal time be my level solution. Not the Chile did that in my solution. Jesus season Oenio, Mishure, Chile did that in my Piacere, Ludio Pane, a chow diane, change our lotion. Saka or Gongbiome, Queda Mali, Queda Ma Jaipa, down baby Yadoshin, Bianca de the king. Go on, they were Lulu Tambo Matabu solution, no. Tomato or blue comle. Lulu Tambomatalo shena. They out to the Alon reaction, no. They are Mudama or blue comle. A conoha, Ashen of Piala Mabe. I go up Papali Po and Kosho, Papali Piana Leme. Go or Pipili Po and Kosho, Pipili Piana Leme. Akudos are Lama, Akudo, Machalo, Loaded Lua, Lodabe, Dabi Melo. The low light look. Go up about it. I mean the other lay. I live Yamaji. Nga low like look, Nga Dabi go on a below low night the lay. Nga Dabi go on a below tea. No, Abono or total long night less or you are just man jack later tomorrow. Sinaji Bona, a maid on Sansuji, didn't Mali or Pomo and Joabi or a maid on Sansuji, but Mamasue, that the mirror made Papa Bono. Jamado, Mamasu, Mamma, or Mamasu, Masun, Saturday, Masu, I could let the G. Luigi to you, they radio Lizang, to the Naso of Yamasagabono Bono. At all, Siasamari, Along, or level Jama, Mia Miba, at the diner tabby, go with the Luba. Go Miba, Lord, Tambo Tabi, or Liza, the Ludi, Madamiaco, Jamadi, a Mia and Tambo Tada. At all, Jamato, Ludo Sheme Piobame. Tomorrow, Yaman and Gamma, tell her the council on thee. Time being a lumio a drago. Body count on look village and number to sins our go, Manemachi, Martigny, count up, look headily. Tomorrow, Yaman and Gamma, being there, but then they'll be on me. Kuchama Biopi is a guy, Chama Biokin is a guy, Biokin is a guy, Biokin is a guy, Jaman alone, I told her is a guy along a YouTube, Majamata Chiba, Colon when not on Biokin, I didn't do any beyond is a guy. Do the PDF number the long way to run a canna do they look down, long and do the code and get long and I look at it, look as it's my Abi there, I'm now the cool Levitan and the lobby, and my coach, Jama, Macau, the Jamo, Coara, Guru, now so near a bono. ဘာပဲပြောကျမကြီးမကောင်းနောက်ဆုံးနေထားမျိုးမှာတော့မှကိုယ်တိုင်းပြီးကိုယ်နိုင်ငံတွေလုံနေတဲ့လူငယ်တွေလုံနေတော့ကျမအားပေးပါတယ်ကျမကို line ပေါ်မှာတွေ့တာရှားတော့မဟုတ်ပါဘူးကျမကျမကြီးမကောင်းတာနောက်တစ်ခါကိုယ်နိုင်ငံမှာကိုလူမျိုးချင်းချင်းကိုအိုးမဲ့တုပ်ပြီးတတ်ခိုင်းနေတဲ့မင်းအောင်လှိုင်ရဲ့အောက်တန်းကြတဲ့စိတ်တက်ကလူပြောတာကိုလူနားမလဲတော့ကျမတို့ဘယ်လုံးမှမပြောနိုင်ပါဘူးကျမတို့ကအဲ့တော့ခါကျကဲအမေရိကန်သမ္မတကြီးဘိုင်ဒန်ဘောနော်မင်းအဲ့ဒါမင်းအောင်လှိုင်ဟယ်လီကော်ပတာနဲ့သွားပြီးတော့ဖမ်းမိတော့လို့ပြောလို့ရတဲ့အနေထားမဟုတ်အဲ့တော့ Donald Trump သမ္မတဖြစ်တယ်ဆိုရင်တော့လေအဲ့ Donald Trump ကြီးကတော့အယူပဲပြောအပေါ်ပဲပြောဒါမှ Donald Trump သာရှိမယ်ဆိုရင်တော့သူလည်းပဲမင်းအောင်လှိုင်လိုလူမျိုးတော့အနေချောင်မှာမဟုတ်တာတော့သိကြတယ်ပေါ့နော်အခုတော့တိုင်းပြည်နဲ့လူမျိုးအတွက်ကိုဒုက္ခပေးရနေအောင်တကဘာလုံးကလည်းစီးပွားရေးလုပ်ငန်းအကျက်တဲဖြစ်နေကြတယ်ရေနံတွေဓာတ်ဆီဈေးတွေကျတက်တာတယ်ကားဈေးတွေအဲ့လိုမျိုးဖြစ်နေဆိုတော့မြန်မာနိုင်ငံမှာဓာတ်ဆီဘလင်းတောင်မှပဲတောင်းနဲ့ရှိပေးဝေရတယ်ဆိုတဲ့အစီအမျိုးနောက်လက်စစ်မီဒီဆိုလို့ရှိရင်လည်းပဲပြည်သူတွေကိုဒုက္ခအမျိုးမျိုးပေးပြီးတော့မှတော့ကြာ15မိနစ်ပေးလိုက်တော့ကြာပေးမိနစ်20ပေးလိုက်နဲ့ဖြတ်လိုက်ပြီးတော့တိုင်းပြည်လုံးဒုက္ခပေးလိုက်တာမင်းအောင်လှိုင်ရေကိုပြန်မေးကြည့်ပါဦးကိုလုတ်ခဲ့တဲ့လုပ်ရတဲ့ကောင်းလားလို့နော်ကဲအမျိုးတို့ရေဒီမှာလည်းပေါ့နော်အမျိုးတွေကိုချစ်တယ်တန်ဖိုးထားတယ်ဖြစ်နိုင်လို့ရှိရင်လည်းပဲနေ့တိုင်းလို့ပဲအမျိုးတွေနဲ့စကားပြောပြီးတော့ပြောချင်ပါတယ်တိုးတော်လည်းဒီနေ့တော့မမဆုရဲ့မွေးနေ့တက်ကိုရည်ရွယ်ပြီးပြောတဲ့တကြောင်မမဆုအတန်လေးကျမတို့နားထောင်ကြည့်ကြအောင်နော်ဒီမိုကရေစီဆိုတာဘာလဲဆိုတာသူကပြောထားတာတော့အောင်ဆန်းစုကြည်ပေါ့နော်why democracy is matter ဆိုအမေစုကဗိုလ်ချုပ်အောင်ဆန်းနေမဟုတ်ဘူးကျွန်တော်မြန်မာနိုင်ငံလွတ်လပ်ရေးရဖို့အတွက်စ조사တဲ့လူတိုင်းရဲ့ခေါင်းထဲမှာဖေဘူးချိန်တို့နော် BCG ကိုအဖွဲ့တွေဗမာပြည်ရဲ့college ကျောင်းသားတွေကနေပြီးတော့ group ခွဲပြီးတော့မှစလာခဲ့တဲ့ဟိုကဖေဘူးချိန်တို့အခစ်သေးကိုထွက်လာပြီးဗိုလ်ချုပ်အောင်ဆန်းတို့ခေအစုံပေါ့နော်လွတ်လပ်ရေးစ조사တဲ့အချိန်မှာမြန်မာနိုင်ငံကိုဒီမိုကရေစီစနစ်ကိုအခြေခံတဲ့ Federal ပြည်ထောင်စုသမ္မတမြန်မာနိုင်ငံတို့ဖြစ်အောင်ငါတို့ထူထောင်မယ်ဆိုတဲ့ American နိုင်ငံရဲ့1885ခုဒီမိုကရေစီစတင်တည်ထောင်ထားတဲ့အခြေခံဥပဒေကြီးကဒီကနေ့ထိခိုင်မာတဲ့တည်တံ့တယ်အဲ့ဒီလိုပဲလုပ်မယ်ဆိုတဲ့စိတ်နဲ့လုပ်နေတဲ့အချိန်မှာနော်အာနာကိုလက်နဲ့အာကိုဗန်းပြပြီးတော့မှပြည်သူကိုအကြောက်တရားနဲ့ချိန်ချောက်ပြီးတော့မှနိုင်ငံရဲ့တာယာစတာပစ္စည်းကိုကိုပစ္စည်းလို့သဘောထားပြီးတော့နော်ခိုးယူဝက်လာခဲ့တဲ့ဒီစစ်လက်နဲ့အာနာရှင်အယူတွေကနော်တိုင်းပြည်ဒုက္ခပေးတာဟာဒီကနေ့ထိဒုက္ခပေးလို့မကုန်ဘူးမမဆုက9နှစ်ဒီမိုကရေစီစနစ်နဲ့အုပ်ချုပ်ပြခဲ့တဲ့ခါမှာပြည်သူတွေဟာဒီမိုကရေစီရဲ့အရာအသာကိုသိတယ်နားလည်သွားတယ်ဒါကြောင့်လို့ဒီကနေ့စစ်အာဏာယူတွေလက်နဲ့ကင်ပြီးတော့မှတိုင်းပြည်ရလူပြည်သူလူထုရဲ့အသက်အိုးအိမ်စီးစိမ်ကိုကြက်ကလေးငှက်ကလေးတွေလို့ဖြက်စီးနဲ့တတ်ဖြတ်ပြီးတော့နော်ပြည်သူကိုဒုက္ခပေးတဲ့အာဏာယူတစုရဲ့ဒုက္ခပေးမှုကြောင့်တိုင်းပြည်ဒုက္ခရောက်ခဲ့တာဒီမိုကရေစီလိုချင်တဲ့လောက်ခဲ့တယ်ဆိုတာဟာကျမတို့အခုကဝုန်းတိုင်းထားလို့ခဲ့တယ်မဟုတ်မမစုကအမေစုနေမကောင်းလို့အမေစုရဲ့အမေတော်ခင်ကြီးနေမကောင်းလို့ပြန်လာတာမှန်တယ်သို့တော်လည်းပဲတိုင်းပြည်နဲ့လူမျိုးတွေလိုအပ်လို့ရှင်သူကအချိန်မြေး ready ပါလို့ပြောခဲ့တဲ့အတိုင်းပဲသူအချိန်မြေးသူပြည်သူကလိုအပ်လို့တောင်းဆိုလာတဲ့အချိန်မှာသူပါဝင်ပြီးတော့ရက်ထိပေးခဲ့တယ်ဒီကနေ့အထိလည်းမရက်ထိပေးတယ်သူမဟာဒီကနေ့အထိအသက်89နှစ်ပြည့်ပါပြီဒီနေ့ဆိုရင်မဘာပြည်နဲ့ကျမနဲ့ဆိုတရက်ထဲပဲပေါ့နော်ဒီမှာလည်းတနင်္ဂနွေနေ့မှာ2020နဲ့နော်ဇွန်လ19ရက်နေ့တနင်္ဂနွေနေ့ဖြစ်ပါတယ်မမစုရဲ့မွေးနေ့89နှစ်ပြည့်မွေးနေ့ပါအဲဒါကြောင့်မမစုအသက်ရှည်ကျန်းမာ၍နော်နိုင်ငံနဲ့လူမျိုးအတွက်ကိုအခု new generation တွေကို guideline ပေးခဲ့သလိုမျိုးပဲပြည်သူကိုစီးလုံးညီညွတ်စွာနဲ့တူမှန်ဖီမှန်ဆောင်တာတွေမလုပ်ဘဲနဲ့ပေါ်တော့ကြဟိုတက်ကွက်ဒီလိုရေးလိုက်တော့ကြဟိုတက်ကွက်ဒီလိုရေးလိုက်နဲ့အပြန်လှန်နေအတူတူချိုးဖဲ့နေမဲ့စားတိုင်းပြည်နဲ့လူမျိုးမရက်တည်နိုင်ဖို့အတွက်ဒီမိုကရေစီစနစ်ကိုအခြေခံပြီး Federal ပြည်ထောင်စုသမ္မတမြန်မာနိုင်ငံတော်ကြီးတည်ဆောက်နိုင်ဖို့အတွက်ဒေါ်အောင်ဆန်းစုကြည်ပြောခဲ့တဲ့ဒီမိုကရေစီဆိုတဲ့အကြောင်းရင်းကိုနားလည်ဒီမိုကရေစီဆိုတာဟာစီးနဲ့ကမ်းနဲ့နေတတ်ရမယ်နော်ကိုယ့်ရဲ့အတွေးခေါ်တွေနဲ့နော်အရာကို modify လုပ်တဲ့ modify လုပ်ရမယ်တတိရှိနဲ့အမှန်တရားကိုပြောရမယ်ငါးပါးသီလမြဲရမယ်အဲ့ဒါဒီမိုကရေစီပဲအဲ့ဒါဒီမိုကရေစီဆိုတာဘာလဲလို့ပြောလို့ရှိရင်တော့ပထမဆုံးကိုငါးပါးသီလမြဲလိုက်ကြည့်လိုက်ငါးပါးသီလမြဲပြီဆိုရင်ဒါဒီမိုကရေစီစနစ်အခြေခံစည်းကမ်းဥပဒေပဲအဲ့ဒီဒီမိုကရေစီစနစ်ရဲ့အခြေခံစည်းကမ်းဥပဒေဒီငါးပါးသီလနဲ့အတူတူပဲအဲ့တော့ငါးပါးသီလဆိုတာဘယ်ဗုဒ္ဓဘာသာမှမဟုတ်ဘယ်ဘာသာမှမဟုတ်လူချင်းအတွင်းမှာထားရတဲ့ကိုချင်းသီလပဲအဲ့ဒီငါးပါးသီလကိုပြည့်စုံအောင်စောင့်ထိန်ခြင်းသည်နံပါတ်1အခြေခံစည်းကမ်းဥပဒေနဲ့ညီညွတ်တဲ့ဒီမိုကရေစီစနစ်အဲ့ဒါနဲ့ညီပြီဆိုတိုင်းပြည်ကိုဥဆောင်ဖို့အတွက်ဥဆောင်နိုင်တဲ့လူကဥဆောင်တဲ့ချိန်မှာလည်းပဲပံ့ပိုးတဲ့လူကလည်းပံ့ပိုးရမယ်ဆိုတဲ့တာဝန်နဲ့အတူတာဝန်ယူမှုတာဝန်သိမှုနဲ့ဥဆောင်နိုင်တဲ့လူကဥဆောင်မယ်ပံ့ပိုးနိုင်တဲ့လူကပံ့ပိုးမယ်ဆိုတော့နေရာဆိုတဲ့ Thin down my junket, my mebio, near so that thin down my junket, Louis Sina, Shima, Goa, Gong Gong, Midio can be a pialio, Penele Mura Muro, go Biosian, go Losing of Piali, Penele Mura Muro, Mitamura, low women. Eh, go, I go, Stomiasina, made look him so in dog. Go time be there, Martin. Go Lumio Chingia, where only when they the Lumio, only when they don't no Yaga Tawage or account, standard council, standard army, only when you come Yama, do two vidom, allow the table, meet you get. Go a pour on the Lord, next can get a Wapodolo, Mure, Sana went out the media, my yanks or guy, Cushy, the Pusoti and a palmy time, you don't have bid. Beginning Yamatam, Rosetta, Chilos and Lambia, the court of Yata, the Bonzam, Zabaya, she in a Luda, Yoda, Chanjan, Lutara, where pure as Murin. Lima Martin and Majawa Manada, the Bioni, the Ludia, Luceta Machida, the Laysandeo, Muit had the Lalo Tiala on Piavare, the Jamulo, Ke, now some way in a Muro, Mamasu Biore, Abono, a than Leo, not how Tijara, Bono, Mamasu Bior had a democracy and made a democracy John Leo Bono, Jamal, not how Jaya. At the TV up like the canary. The machine, I'm Yuri. I made that dear, not how one about Mamma suit that dear. Tomorrow. Young like giant jara body. A maybe my double away your my mama. Tomorrow, the machine, young mamma.
The topic on which I've been asked.
Check out this verbal.
Advertisement. Canada, they can be. Mamma Suya, them, though the level English look at so we may learn. Mamma Suya at the Jara, so our tomorrow say Jama, Webono, Luampi Jara, no? You are a business son. Internet layer Mama below. Mama Suya at the Nijama not out there, no?
My relationship with my relationship machine.
Future,
The topic on which I have been asked to speak, Why Democracy Matters, is not only thought-provoking, but provocative, because it implies other questions. Does democracy matter? Does it still matter? Did it ever matter? To all those questions, I could give a resounding yes. Burma is one of those countries that lost democracy and are trying to find it again. I was fortunate to be part of a generation that grew up in a democratic society. When Burma became independent in 1948, we became independent as a parliamentary democracy. As a child, I took for granted freedom of expression, freedom of association, freedom of the press. These, for us, were common fare. And in those days, in spite of the fact that we had been plagued by armed insurgencies almost from the time of independence, we were one of the most progressive and vibrant nations in our region. We had a health system with which our people were satisfied, although of course always looking for something better, which is as it should be. We also had an education system which is sound and respected, not just in our region, but all over the world. And this, as I said, in spite of the many insurgencies with which we had to cope. We were able to achieve this because the government of our country was rooted in the elements of good governance, accountability and transparency, which are rooted in democracy. So I could say that democracy matters. It matters for progress. It matters for development. It matters particularly in a country like ours, made up of many ethnic nationalities. Unity out of diversity is possible only in an environment where peaceful, non-violent political means can be used to achieve the kind of society where we can coexist in spite of our differences, where people are confident that they will be given a fair hearing, where they believe that the basic foundation of justice and freedom would ensure their rights as citizens of one country, whatever their race, religion, or political ideologies might be. I mentioned justice and freedom specifically because a couple of weeks ago I met some school children. They were about 8, 9, 10, that age group. I asked them what they understood by democracy. One little boy said freedom, and then a little girl said justice. I thought that was not bad, considering the fact that they had been born into a military dictatorship and had never really experienced a full-fledged democracy in which they could be confident of their rights. But why justice and freedom? Why do people care so much about access to justice, access to freedom? Because it is only if we can be assured of justice and freedom that we can be confident that our voices will be heard. And hearing the voice of the people, listening to the voice of the people, taking into account the aspirations of the people are essential elements of democracy. So democracy matters. It matters for peace. It matters for peace in a multi-ethnic society. It matters for peace in a world where there are great diversities. In our country, we have been fighting for human rights and democracy when the people rose up against the dictatorial socialist, Burma Socialist Party program government. It's a very long name. And
Socialist government.
It was nothing like as effective an administration as its title. In the days of the perhaps it was Burma Socialist Party program rather than Burmese, but in any case, in those days, we did not understand what human rights meant. We'd lost track even of what democracy meant. Generations grew up with no knowledge of working democracy. Because we were totally ignorant of what democracy meant. People knew what it was. It is quite normal for new generation democracy so that
sit and I you go a baby at Chimo, a maybe a Chimo, a may so that young Janet Jamaro, a may go win it as I may online a sit and I call no a mipia Chimo tomorrow than later people
was imposed on our people as well. The military dictatorship always claimed that our people were not yet ready to take matters into their own hands. That they were not experienced enough, they were not mature enough, they were not good enough to carve out their own future. This is
Mama
something we have had to fight against for the last nearly 3 decades.
Thank you
We
very
have
much.
to prove not only that democracy matters, but democracy matters because our people matter. Democracy recognizes the worth of each individual as well as the worth of the individuals as a group, as a whole, making up a nation. The voice of the people is what matters in democracy. And we have to prove to those who stand against such democratic values that our people are capable
our people are capable. Tomorrow, people have long night. You see the look
in a way that
inspiration, need in a way the way sustain our society, bring genuine development.
I said that genuine development means enhancement of the human spirit. It is not simply material progress. Material progress has been achieved in countries where there have been many questions raised with regard to whether it has meant genuine progress for the people as human beings. This is where I think democracy has an advantage. We can, through democracy, progress materially as well as spiritually. The word spiritual may sound a little strange in a discussion on political democracy, which is what I've assumed this is about. But when I use the word spiritual, I use it in a very broad sense. I use it in a sense of that spirit which makes human beings human, not merely animals who possess the power of speech and are capable of walking on 2 legs. So, if we want to enhance the worth of our people, we have to recognize that they are capable of taking care of their own future. We have to recognize that they have the right not only to demand that they have a say in how their future is shaped, but they have the capacity to implement their ideas. They have the capacity to fulfill their goals through the kind of action that benefits a democratic society. That is to say, through discussion and debate. Democracy matters because it helps to develop the better facets of human nature. If we do not recognize the capacity of human beings to look after themselves and to look after their fellow human beings, to look after their fellow citizens, then we will not be able to build a world where responsibility goes hand in hand with rights, and where each and every human being learns to recognize that his right should not in any way obstruct the rights of others, that his innate dignity depends very much on how much dignity he allows his fellow citizens, his fellow human beings. So democracy matters for the sake of human dignity. In my country,
democracy matters for the sake of the human dignity.
Because we are just starting out on the road to democratization. This, of course,
to the democratization, this
who would like to believe that we are well on the road to democratization. I'm afraid this is not so. We are just at the beginning of the road and in danger of coming to I'm sure many of you are aware of the fact that we have been working for constitutional. Constitutional amendments are essential if Burma is to become a true working democracy. This present constitution is so drawn up that the elected representatives of the people, and here for the time being, let us leave aside the question of how fair or unfair the elections of 2010 were that put into place a so-called civilian government. We have to make sure that the elected representatives of the people genuinely reflect the power of the people as it should exist in a democracy. I want to make it quite clear that I'm not talking about the power of the people as something that is exercised only in the streets, as some now seem to assume. The power of the people must be made felt through all the institutions of the country, through the executive, through the legislature, through the judiciary. The judiciary is most important. My party has repeatedly emphasized rule of law because of the very fact that our judiciary is far from independent. It is a mere tool of the executive. That means not just that the judiciary is undemocratic, but the executive is undemocratic as well. And the legislature too is not because we are not working hard as a very young legislature to live up to the standards and values of democracy, but because the legislature is made up of 75% elected members and 25% nominated non-elected members. And these 25% have the right to decide whether or not our constitution can be amended. This is contrary to all norms of democracy, that an unelected group should be able to decide what our elected representatives are not allowed to decide is totally unacceptable. Because we suffer from a lack of true democratic practices, we know better than those who take democracy for granted that democracy truly matters. Democracy matters for progress, democracy matters for peace, democracy matters for human dignity, democracy matters for us.
Oh, sorry. Begin the line internet computer. Internet computer can internet can share a lot.
Democracy matters for us in Burma, where we are trying to once again make our society a democratic one, where each voice counts and where our people are a united and peaceful nation made up of different races, different religions, different political beliefs, and different personal beliefs. We want democracy because
we want democracy, that's right.
And we would like to believe that it also matters to you that we should be able to achieve democracy.
We should be able to achieve democracy.
While talking about democracy
why talking about why democracy matters? Democracy matters for the whole world, well also to draw our attention to the fact that is the time,
particularly in our country and other countries like Burma, which are struggling to assert their democratic identity. Thank you.
Thank you, Mama Su. I love you so much. I miss you yet. No, I had a tan labor, no? I miss you, Dandy. Okay. Along a good say, Marabono. I miss you to go to Maro, Nida, Bosudan Bijava, a good to my like or something that Nina. Go to Gia, the Mesu Italis Ali to a Yibia. This a galong or along the jazzy Jimare, music Jimare, Natans Jin, this is Jimare, Mamma Subio had a galong libono. Not only Arali, Miran as a galong, Jamal Tetebio by the Mamma Su had time in a lumuboma, but loud to say not having made that Alice in Bono. Jamaro America man be mellow ha American lagumla Japan lagumla Australia laguma pen and Kamamukuba Baluleti United Nations Rajika leve Ubri ya so that boundary machida may outline out time chatted, only when ye trimmer hung, Dora when may my hung body, do at door, oh, bull of your man, meow baby, and Miss Wood, yes, where I be a look no, not a card to a time being a lumio, the Yoma Gauchi swan, mail now, a jam baby low there, that's how much tomorrow, but do coma amago, go time Peter, go, Jama, may build the go ain't then she and go low, they are lare, a lulu shin, they larely, eh, Hodamla, eh, like Lucian Saja, Dr. Pio Papan is a guy, Pioja Bibi and Duatade, eh, a lule pito, the ain't then she go ain't then she go well. Ain't that then she go well at it, no? The Bacani say go well at it. Bacani's only a colon that you say your video go by a PC so in order to go to Tarap and table low at it. Damon level Pong Young, Harry, but my mother Pong Young, I tell me about it. Tomorrow, America, Marco Bisico and a good touch about at the town that a young lizard as a tear. Sabuta, the America, Mara, Coago, she jara. A Biogena, a Cobisico, go her. I look good to him, your man, like my mail, and I say, and I you dig a time in a lumioco, chuckling a glade, go, bo, we saw us on a that Pia Yoma, Couchy be a cold so Louis, a tight kind needed. The mea out then, the mea mamma, alone the out then jar at the court, the mea, do that the market, the mail and the lender power, the nega, and I Yuri, which tomorrow, Juven coach you know by my jam. I meet Pia Chimo, my Pietro, a year ago, neither our Bazi Melo, this also be tomorrow, a boat out the iron, and ye. No, so much tighter to the so much baby, let this as over it. Now, Mamma should be always a guy, which man now so be happy. I've been a coach, yet, Pianti meet her, which I'm happy about. Mamma so eat her saliva. Go low, Jeanette, 9 gam you go, and now so jar. Go, I may yaw, low ya, my bad. No, bear a poor zigo male, ago nilumiabu, bear pogo go male, ago nilumiabu, go, ago. I go there say never, now so no, go ya or low you are my bad. Do our son Suji, a conasacona, name ya, Mwene, a Madiani, a Chamati Zagali, Tama Bioja in it. Dini Lago, a song that bad. Happy birthday, money return, Mama Sue. Say each other, Jane, go eat Jama Jane, a piece of it. Diving a lumio drago, another music did ha, Mama Sue, go wally, Pibiroma. No time you go, Pianle 2009 Kama, Jamadi, Be Doma. Don't our son Suji and 9 gan alone, so there's a cameo, my pure babu. Don't our son Suji, so Jaman alone that my Jamaro Gauna, my Jamaro, a then alone, my own out tema, me and she name, a second malashini me, Don San Suji, Don San Suji, Bajam, the Boja, Ansa, music chabige, democracy, music, Newin me, Yinui Lambi, Miji, and Miltag, me, Don San Suji, and Miji, and Port of a democracy, and Netara, go, Pidu, go. The Ujinti Oceans, you, Toyo, Muba, Tambo, Dawa, Mibian, Damaja, Alon Kazan, Nale, and Gani did the Biagaban, or Don Sansuji, Ocho the Kima, Colomia, Wellomia, Polomia, Dredjam, Mamma, Yamanagama, the coach of Ori, Kima, Jivian, Ludi, Veshidamulo, Coda, the water, the Ludele, and then the Mashida, Toto, Lebe. Colo along Julo de Luman, the man, Tausha, or let it on Sansuzi Piaga Bubare. Taking it time in a lumu, Masena, Mana, Lolo, Lurego, Yoma, couches, and a two every time you look up in a mail line. Say, Anna, you know the Nangano Damanga Bogo, not Mamma, Dumia, Damia, Chimia, no, the Pirazu, making G, Don Sansuji, at the corner second and maybe Muni, and Lesson, Chamado, this are lessons of Gapi, Aragaro. May outline at to Lena Ago Lubawa, we Pidu season Osario, me show Piasi, Luda, the Miata, Ho so Luya, Typianida, Lena Ago, Anna, Yumia, Mima, Amianzo, Kinson, Pabia, Bazia, goes on a Azona, Yazona, Muzona, Dozona, Dozona, the Motor Sona, Tazana, Satuma, Yaziga, the Jabia, Managaclo, Yaka, Alono, Jama Business Kudo, you gave me a Kudogamu, Punes a Kudogamu, Puba, Omer, Kudogamu, Georgia. No, to Lodi, Metumlo, and Chuja, but the Jamashuma, Luma, Chuja, Luja, Bazi, Jonga, Yamanang and G, say each other, you go Chamas, and Chama, the Pema, the Sergio, the Pema, the Soja, the Pema, the Leon, Louis Ellen, Ludan, and Bidu, Vidama, agents, or Tisan, and democracy negotiating and a fair around to the Maram Yamanang, and Mianzo, Bobo Bazi. Okay. Murio Chibare, Jamale, Majamaja, Limotan, and Bo, Josa Bame, do the level. Tomorrow, time be a shiny yara, ye machine, Mimala, Yemala, so the boy, I mean, a Johnny had a meal line, Maja, so machine, or tomorrow, tiny, oh my baby, join it, tinny like to my son, no? Mure, Amweva, Jama neighbor, say Chana, or neighbor, they are. Don't like me about not they are tiny so raga. But I have so meditation look this, a seco clear piano. Being go to it at you look down. To me, I lay 9 yard, lemakaya, or go 3 taba, no, loba chin, loba telline, I loba, I loba pidame, I loba pidabusin, I loba and a loba go, I loba pion, lobidacama, mato loba machine, and say, sing, go sing as in McKim Biroma. No, say Chanda than in any Jabazi, go Jama, say Chanda Jabazi, so down being a Mizumuni or let in Mave. Jama, a million is so in it, so down well look at it. Okay, bye bye for now.